everyone.
Hey,
Oh, Charlotte is rocking the crazy person wig.
always ready for Awareness Month.
She just looks for a reason to wear this wig. We're going to wait a few minutes for everyone to get tuned in, and we're actually going to do a broadcast of Facebook Live, but none of you, you won't be seen on Facebook Live. It's only me and Charlotte that are on the screen. But we welcome our webinar guests to type questions in the chat, and but we're gonna go through a lot, so maybe save questions till later. And people who are on Facebook Live won't be able to see your questions. And if anyone you know is watching this on Facebook Live, they won't we won't see their questions as we're live broadcasting on Facebook, because if they're typing questions on Facebook, we're not on there, we're on Zoom. So, all right, we've got a few people here. I think I'm gonna just wait like one more minute for us to get started. Charlotte, do you have a story behind this wig?
I mean, a normal person would. Do I have a collection of wigs just waiting for Awareness Month and the right opportunity to wear them. No, I looked for what was the most ridiculous wig possible, because I think that's always the best choice, get the most attention. And this is what we came up with.
I have a turquoise wig too, but it is at the office and I'm working from home today, and I did not think to grab it in advance, but next year.
Maybe we'll have to do a wig day for everyone for a part of Awareness Month.
Yeah, or like a lot of people just dye their hair. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when like dyeing your hair turquoise was like weird, and now it's like everyone's dyeing their hair. Who cares? Yes, I have yet to be brave enough to do it, mostly because I think I'd have a mast cell reaction to the dye. But all right, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share us to Facebook Live. And as I said, for anyone who's just joined, your face and name and stuff is not going to be broadcast on Facebook Live. So don't worry, it's just Charlotte and I that can be seen.
Yeah, so hey everybody, if we haven't met before, I'm Charlotte Flores. I am the Director of Community Engagement here for Dysautonomia International. So I help run our support groups, and pretty much anything that has to do with our community is something that I've got my fingers on and am a part of.
Yes, and hello. For those of you I have not met yet, I'm Lauren Stiles. I'm the founder and president of Dysautonomia International. And I'm really excited this is one of my favorite months of the year, obviously. I really think that after 3 years of everything being virtual because of COVID, this is really the first year that we are starting to do in-person events. And we know that people have different levels of comfort with in-person events. So there's plenty of opportunity for virtual activities and online engagement. But there are definitely some folks who are amping to go for in-person events this year. So we're going to hop right into it. These are just some photos from, this is our, an event we had in San Diego several years ago. This tall skyscraper building is actually the Helmsley Tower the Helmsley building on Park Avenue in New York City. Very fancy. And you can just barely see it. Behind it is the MetLife building. And there's many, many movies that fly down Park Avenue and go up and look at the MetLife building at the opening credits of the movie to show like it's a New York City movie. And this is one of our support groups doing a paint night during Awareness Month as a bit of a fundraiser. All right, so a brief history of Dysautonomia Awareness Month. So we kicked off Dysautonomia Awareness Month the day we launched Dysautonomia International in October 1st of 2012. We were like, go big or go home. We're launching a global awareness month, even though no one has heard of us yet. So
that's our style here. Go big.
Just go big. And it's sort of, I took the idea from, what is that Mel Gibson movie, Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. And that's really was our mindset in building Dysautonomia International. If we build a good infrastructure for our patient community and we give people platforms and ways to get involved and get engaged in ways that they feel comfortable, that lots of people will step up and want to get involved. And that's what's happened. So we've had Dysautonomia Awareness Month events in October in thousands of cities around the world. We used to count every year and we just stopped tracking it because it was just thousands. It was too many. But it's all over the US, Canada, Japan, Australia, a couple European countries. We've had the cool, those two towers in Kuala Lumpur, which I'm probably saying wrong, They're very famous, really tall skyscrapers in Malaysia have been lit up, and it's just kind of neat to see it really grow. So let's just talk about like, why do we do this, right? Every disease has an awareness month and an awareness ribbon. And, why is it important to raise awareness? I mean, if you're on this call, you're probably a patient or a caregiver and you know why, but just so we can articulate it to other people in our lives that we might be engaging with when we do talk about awareness events or social media awareness posts, etc. We're trying to reduce the diagnostic delays for POTS and other forms of dysautonomia, all forms of dysautonomia, to get the awareness out there. Like, local people in their community will hear about this and go, huh, that sounds like what my kid has. That sounds like what I have. And they'll look into it a little bit more, and it'll help more people get diagnosed in a more timely manner. We want to improve the quality of care and the access to care for current patients, and raising awareness lets hospital systems know, like, wow, there are people that have this in our community. I can't even tell you how many hospitals we've done like physician education or patient education training events with, and they think it's like super rare and no one's going to show up. And then like 400 dysautonomia patients show up on like a Tuesday afternoon, and they're like, where did these people come from? And we're like, they were always here. You just weren't serving them. So there's a certain amount of noise we want to make as a community to let healthcare infrastructure know that we exist. We want to increase the amount of compassion and support, and sort of give validation to our fellow patients and ourselves that what you're dealing with is real and it's serious and it's debilitating, so that people in your community and in your family and your coworkers and your school classmates and your teachers will give you that compassion and support you need. If they've never heard of your disease, or they think it's not real or it's not serious, they don't extend the amount of compassion and support that you need. So really kind of getting the word out there on it helps. We want to get businesses interested in supporting people with autonomic disorders, right? Maybe they are going to make a new app for us. Maybe they were going to develop a new treatment. Maybe they're going to open a new physical therapy center that focuses on dysautonomia. There's so many other diseases that have lots of business interests that are working to help their patient community. And we're just starting to see that in the dysautonomia community, like in the past year or two, probably. We want to encourage more medical professionals to get into the field. And if they've never heard of it, they're not going to get into it. But then they hear, they see press articles about it. They hear something is happening in their hometown about it. Maybe that's getting them to think a little bit more about it. And if we catch them at the right stage in their career, maybe persuading a few of them to serve these patients and go into the field, or at least if they're in another field, kind of, being a little bit more thoughtful about how they treat these patients. We want to encourage political support for our patient community. In order to get federal research funding, the biggest funder of research in the world is the US National Institutes of Health. And then other federal, if you're tuning in from other countries, other federal, government agencies also provide research funding, not as much as the NIH, but we need to be visible and be aware, have people be aware of us, so that when we do go and we ask for funding for research, that they've heard of us. They've heard of, oh, I've heard of that. They wear those crazy turquoise wigs. No, not all of us, some of us.
Wigs are not required.
Yeah, not part of the diagnostic criteria, but you never know. And then we want to, obviously we want to do some fundraising during Awareness Month to the extent that we can. Every activity doesn't have to be about fundraising, but there are lots of people who use Awareness Month as a reason to host the fundraiser they've always wanted to host. Oh, it's Awareness Month, we're having a fundraiser, So, and most of our funds that we raise at Dysautonomia International go towards supporting research. And then also just the sort of community building for internally within the dysautonomia community. When we have in-person events, whether it's in Raleigh or it's in Boston or it's in a rural community in Nebraska, there will be people that come out, and it just feels really great to meet other patients and caregivers in person. Because so many of us, we have maybe met some people on Facebook or on other social media platforms. There's something really cool about meeting in person and kind of relating in a very different way. And then once we've sort of built relationships between the local patients and caregivers, that really strengthens the quality of the engagement we get on the support groups and just helps people feel more connectedness, you know? All right. So how do we raise awareness? Charlotte, do you want to go over this slide for us?
Sure. Yeah. So the most effective awareness tool is to make sure that we get media coverage, because we can do all kinds of things. We can shout at the top of our lungs, but if we're not really getting the coverage and it's just our community that keeps hearing the message, then we're not spreading the awareness message. So our goals with media coverage are to make sure that we're being accurate. Accuracy is really what lends to credibility. And so we want to make sure that what you're telling the news, what you're telling a newspaper is really accurate. Be relatable. A lot of these people have probably never heard of your condition before, and it might at first sound to them like, oh, that's such a weird thing. And, sometimes we hear people say POTS is rare. Well, that's not accurate. So again, going back to the accuracy, instead, you can make it more relatable to them and say, it sounds like this crazy thing you've never heard of, but actually it's not rare. So don't confuse the reporters with 25 different diagnoses. I think a lot of us have so many layers of different things that are going on. And for me, it really helps to tune into dysautonomia. That's what this month awareness is about, and trying to keep that message really clean and straightforward. Be organized. Ooh, I love this one. I'm a big fan of organization. So what are the 3 things that you really want the readers to learn? What are really the key points you want them to walk away with? What do you feel like if you get these 3 things across, you will have accomplished your goal? And then again, be concise. It's easy to kind of go on and drag on telling your story because you've been through so much. And it's really easy to just keep going. And instead, the goal is really to be as concise with your story as possible. And then we have an awesome media guide that we've created to help you through this. So it's going to give you some 10 facts that you can use and really help you with that accuracy part. And the media guide is really just a great resource to make you feel more comfortable when you're doing an interview or reaching out for media coverage.
Yeah, we can put the media guide in the chat. Just give me a minute here. Remind me to do that before the end of this. So like it's really, if you happen to know someone who's a journalist, or you're a journalist, or you have a family member who is, then you might be able to sort of plant a story, right? But most media that nonprofits and charities and causes get is what would be called earned media. We're not paying for the media. We're not paying for the advertisements. Although, hey, if you have a bunch of money you want to drop on free advertisements about dysautonomia, let me know. But most of what we're getting is earned media. So how do we earn it? What do we have to do to get reporters to do a local newspaper story on us, a local TV segment? It's much easier to get local stories and local TV, local stuff, than to say, oh, we're going to get in the New York Times, right? We do get in the New York Times occasionally. Once or twice a year, we get some very big media hits. Like we've been on CNN, New York Times, Washington Post. We were just on NPR last week. But those are kind of harder to do at the local level. So these are the things that you would want to do at the local level to try to get regional media interested in just having an article about dysautonomia sometime in the month of October. And you're doing an action, you have an event or some kind of action that they can have a photo of people dressed in turquoise and colorful. Maybe you're with the mayor. There's families, maybe the media loves babies, puppies, and people shaking hands with politicians. So especially if you have a service dog that's cute, bring it. But doing these types of things. So how do you get a proclamation for Dysautonomia Awareness Month? So we've made it really easy. You can just go to dysautonomiainternational.org/awareness. And there's links to click. You can get a free proclamation that's already drafted in like government form. And there's a cover letter that says like, Dear Mayor Smith, and you just have to change the information for your community. And usually you would write to a town board member, a county legislator. You can get proclamations at the state level, but they usually have less of an impact because very, very unlikely that the state legislature is going to invite you to their legislative session to present on dysautonomia. But if you go to the county board of supervisors, or, every state has different jurisdictional divisions, but the village, the city, the county, the township, they usually have smaller community meetings where they will actually invite residents to get up and speak for a few minutes. So if you're a person who's like super nervous and you don't like to speak in public, that's totally fine. We get it. Clearly, Charlotte and I do not have that problem. but you don't have to speak. You could just do a proclamation and take a photo op, and your local elected officials are always happy to take photos with the local residents doing something good for the community, gives them a little press, especially before election season. If it's election season in your home county or district where you are, we do ask that you let us know which government office you're writing to so that we don't have duplicates. It's pretty unlikely, but there have been times where Houston, Texas has had like 3 different people write in at once, and it kind of gets a little disorganized. So we basically, whoever contacts us first and says, I'm doing this, then we sort of delegate that person to be doing it. And then anyone else who contacts us from Houston will say, hey, can you work with this person? They're already doing Houston. So you work together and you can get an even bigger and better ceremony going. You want to get a ceremony if you can. Some elected officials, they're too busy. They don't have time on the agenda. They're not going to let you have a ceremony. So it's still better than nothing, but you're very unlikely to get press coverage if there isn't a ceremony and a photo. So you're going to let us know the time and the date when you plan to do this, because we would love to invite, if your elected official is okay with this, to invite other residents from your area to come and be part of the proclamation ceremony, to pose for the photo with the elected official. And yes, Charlotte has a proclamation.
Got an example right here.
Sometimes they give you at different jurisdictions will give you, a nice little plaque or a little, sometimes it's just a piece of paper. It depends on how much your government offices spend on proclamations, but they usually give out proclamations at the very beginning of the legislative meetings. So if the meeting starts at 5 p.m., then usually you need your group to be there at like 4:45, because they go through the proclamations quickly and then they get down to like the official government business. A fun thing to do is, if you have a handful of people in your community who plan to show up, is to just grab a casual meal or snacks like ice cream or pizza or dinner at TGI Fridays or whatever. Just go before or after the proclamation ceremony as like an informal meetup for your local dysautonomia community. And it's everybody pay for themselves. It's not a big fancy ticketed dinner. If you want to plan that, that's great, but it's kind of hard to plan that between now and October. Usually we got to plan those like a few months in advance. And if you send us a photo of a group of people with your proclamation, as many people as you can, we would happy to share it on social media. Sometimes we get so many proclamation photos, we can't do them every single day. So what we do is we do a whole bunch of them at the end of the month, just to show all the different cities that people hit. But why do you do this? Is because you're trying to get media, right? So you want this is me at my town hall. So just so you know, this guy, Ed Romaine, is my town supervisor in Brookhaven Township on Long Island. And he gave us the first ever Dysautonomia Awareness Month proclamation in history. And it was actually his idea. He's a friend of mine. He was like, oh, can I give you a proclamation for your disease nonprofit? And I was like, sure. So they've been doing it every year. And this is some of our local residents who can come out. And of course, they do this at like 4 o'clock on a work day. So it's pretty hard to get people to come out. But we do it, and then we send the photo we try to get at the meeting, at these town hall meetings, there's often a local reporter covering, what's going on in town hall. And you can ask them like, hey, could we do a little, like a photo of the proclamation and a little blurb, and then just a link to the Dysautonomia International website. It could be a blurb as short as like, Mayor Stevens presents local residents with Dysautonomia Awareness Month proclamation. Learn more about dysautonomia at dysautonomiainternational.org, and that will get other people in your community to come out of the woodwork and say, my family has this too. Like every time we get a news story, we get more people in the community connecting. We have a professionally written press release that we can pop a quote in from you if you want to give a quote. That usually says Dysautonomia Awareness Month matters to me because, and then you give us like one sentence, because I don't want other people to be misdiagnosed like I was, or because I want to help, I want to make sure that all the kids in our community get the resources they need in school if they have dysautonomia, or just like some kind of feel good, motivational kind of positive vibe thing. And the press release isn't meant to tell your entire story of dysautonomia. It's meant to give a reporter like a bite, and you hope that you can reel them in for a full story, that you send them the press release, and then hopefully they contact you and do a full story on, the classic dysautonomia story in the local press is local girl with rare disease. And then we have to correct them and say, it's not rare, but with unusual condition or something like that. We're trying to get away from calling anything rare, because there are a few types of dysautonomia that are rare, but most of them aren't. Okay, so another one would be doing a lighting ceremony. Charlotte, do you want to go over this one for us?
Yeah, actually, this is interesting because it's one of the first ways I got involved with Dysautonomia International as a volunteer before I was on staff. We have something called a shimmer wall in my town that lights up at night. And I thought, oh, we got to turn that turquoise. So think of what buildings and monuments exist. Sorry, I've got turquoise hair all in my mouth. What exists in your area? There's probably, something that you've seen before at night lighting up. You can also ask people who live in your town, like, hey, can you guys help me think of a place that could light up around here? And then you can reach out to them. And you could also search for previous Awareness Month lightings. If you just type in Awareness Month lighting, or sometimes I'll just even type in lighting Raleigh NC, and then that might come up with what kind of things are in your area. And then you can download a lighting request letter that we've created. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you. It's got the information to fill in there. Sometimes you might find that your whatever lighting type monument it is has its own form, but we're trying to give you all the information you need in that lighting request letter so that you'd be able to fill in a form on your own too. And then let us know. We want to make sure that we are telling your support group, hey, we've got this awesome lighting coming up, that we're organizing a time to meet with the rest of your group, take a picture in front of it, and that we're getting everybody excited. And we talked before about this kind of connectivity of going to dinner after or before, or just some way for you to really gather with the community around this lighting.
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned adding the dinner. As soon as you know the date of when your lighting is going to be, let us know. You can. Charlotte is on all of our support groups as Dysint, DIS space INT. That's Charlotte. You can also just email like info@dysautonomiainternational.org. And if you get in touch with us and tell us when the date is, it's really important that we know so we can announce it to the community and get as many people there as possible. And then also we can do a press release with you. If you get a lighting confirmed, we just ask you for a quote and we'll pop it into a press release. And then, take as many cool photos as you can. Try not to send us like blurry cell phone pics while like you're driving through the car and you took a picture through the window. Like that, I guess it's better than nothing, but we can't really use that if it's not kind of a good quality photo.
That's another tip I would give too, is when you're looking for the monument, ask the people that are helping you organize it. There'll be someone who's in charge of the monument. Where's the best spot for us to take a picture? Is there a best view of the monument? And usually they know.
Yeah, this picture is the Cleveland Terminal Tower. They're lighting up this October too. And then, so we also have billboards. This is one of our volunteers in Delaware with a billboard. She got lit up on a highway that we have these very simple billboards. And so you think about like when you're driving down a highway at like 80 miles an hour, I'm sure none of you are lawbreakers like me, but 55 miles an hour, or depending what state you're living in, maybe a little faster, but you can't read a whole detailed thing, right? You can read like 10 words. So we just have these very simple things to kind of trigger people to think, oh, maybe do I have to look into this? So I am lightheaded and fainting and tired, to try to just stimulate some conversation and get people interested. So she just got this. And the way we got this is, so you could pay for them. They're kind of expensive to pay for, but we actually have had some donors who paid for a set number of billboard postings in their state in the month of October. But we're also often able to get spare electronic billboard space that's not being used to be donated to Dysautonomia International. These giant billboard companies usually own like hundreds or thousands of billboards in a state or in a geographic region. And they get a tax write-off if they donate some billboard space to us. We're happy to give them a tax-exempt donation receipt letter. So the billboard companies, you can see, like, when you drive around and you see a billboard, it usually has the name of the company and on the bottom, like Clear Channel, or I can't think of the names of them, but there's a lot of like big billboard companies that have like regional representatives that you can reach out to and ask for donated electronic space. So we have a sample billboard request letter at dysautonomiainternational.org/awareness. Let us know if you get a billboard. We'd love to see photos of it. It's kind of cool. Don't do anything dangerous while you're driving to get the photo. Like, have someone in the car with you or pull over. Here's just a few of the sample billboards, and we've actually updated them to take off the www, because like nobody really does that anymore. These are from 2012 when we first started making them. And we try to keep them generic and not be too specific about things. We also have this with a man, we have this with a Black woman, like to try to, have some diversity, especially if you're think about where you're putting the billboard. If you're putting the billboard in like an urban Black community, you probably don't want a picture of a white lady. You want to have someone that looks more like a local resident. Same thing, like if you were getting this like right outside of a military base or something, there's more sort of dudes hanging out there. I know there are ladies in the military. I'm not saying there aren't, but there's definitely like a more of a geographic scope of different kinds of imagery. So we have a bunch that also have no people, so that there's no, it sort of just works anywhere. And the other thing would be if you want to host a fundraiser. So this is not for everyone, right? Some people are like, I don't really like raising money or asking people for money. I feel weird. So we don't pressure anyone. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But it's kind of fun if you are into it. So we have existing fundraising events. The POTS walks are in the end of September this year, just because the timing with booking the site venues worked out this way. So we're kind of counting them as Dysautonomia Awareness Month extension. September 24th in Detroit, and Boston is September 30th. And they both have virtual options. So if you don't live in the Detroit or Boston area, or you're not feeling well enough to go in person, the cool thing about the POTS walks is you don't actually have to run or walk. If you go to the event, you can just totally just chill out. We have surprisingly, we do have lots of POTS patients who run the event, who walk the event, who wheelchair roll through the events. But we also have plenty of people who just register and come to show their support and get a cool t-shirt. We have other events, existing events, that are listed on our Facebook page on the events listing. And we're also working to get an events listing up on our website, hopefully by October 1st. But if you don't have one in your area and you want to create one, there's some really simple fundraising ideas. Charlotte has actually hosted some great local fundraisers for us. So
yeah, I'd love to talk about these.
Yeah.
So I think some of these fundraisers are the easiest way. I think it can sound intimidating if you've never done any fundraising before, like, oh, this is going to be so much work. But really, so many of these systems are set up to make it easy for you. So I think the first thing to think about is kind of, who is my community? If you are somebody who spends a lot of your time at church, or you have a school group, or you work for a huge company that's all interconnected, then think about that. What might you want to do there? One great thing to do can be a bake sale. Especially I think nowadays that we've transitioned to more like people don't make as much homemade goods anymore. People can get very excited if you bring a cupcake to work. So I think that's a great way to start. Organizing a restaurant give back night. I think from my personal experience, this is the easiest thing to do. I'm actually doing one next month at Chipotle, next month for Awareness Month at Chipotle. I think you think about what restaurants are in the area, and then you can reach out to them. And a lot of the chains already have a program set up and a system for that. But you might also have a local restaurant that you could reach out to, saying, we'd really love to give you guys some business and help us celebrate our cause and spread the word. And a lot of times they'll set up a give back night for you too. Those give back nights work that you just show up, you eat, and then a portion of the sales from the night go back to our organization. Then you could plan a cocktail party. So this is great, especially if you're a social person. Potluck, or a dinner party. And you could ask your guests to donate a certain amount of money, maybe $10, to come be a part of that and have that experience. and then just get creative. Like, what do you want to do? I think this is a great place for you to dream big. What do you think would be fun? What are you really into? And how can you share that with your community and get them engaged?
Yeah, we've had there's another really great event they do in Knoxville, Tennessee, which a group of local POTS moms have put together, and it's called Knox Rocks POTS. And one of them has a teenage son who's in a band, and his band plays at this local pub, and the pub donates a percentage of the food revenue. Most times restaurants and bars, they can't donate alcohol revenue because it, like, some state laws usually prevent that, but they can donate a percentage of the food revenue, and maybe they take a cover charge at the door of $3 or $5, or, you know, something affordable. And then they also do like an auction where they kind of have some cool dysautonomia shirts that they auction off, or, you know, just other kind of fun things that people have donated. And that's very casual. It's like anyone could show up. It's not a big formal ticketed event, fancy kind of thing. It's just like a fun hangout night at a pub. We've had people in a couple different cities organized pub trivia. And sometimes it's dysautonomia themed, but sometimes it's just like pop culture themed, just kind of fun, you know, because a lot of your friends and family who don't have dysautonomia are not going to do very good at dysautonomia pub trivia, but they might be really good at like old Seinfeld quotes or like modern pop bands or something like that, you know. So that's kind of a fun way as well. And if any of the restaurants ask, if they send Dysautonomia International a check with the proceeds from the evening, we are a 501c3 tax exempt organization, and we will mail them a receipt for, confirming their donation with like tax language in it so they can take a tax deduction. And that applies to any donor, so long as we have their name, their contact info, and how much the date they donated and the dollar amount they donated. We always send tax receipts. So let me hop on to the next slide. So here's just some fun photos from like different ways people raised money. This one, like Dimes for Dysautonomia, was somebody just had this on their office desk, and they kind of collected dimes throughout the whole year. And eventually, you know, people put other change in it too, but eventually they, you know, they raised probably maybe like $100 or something, you know, doing that. We've had people organizing different kind of 5K races type events, donating your birthday to Dysautonomia International, you know, asking people to give in if your birthday happens to be in October or some other time of year. Cupcakes for a Cure is always popular. Everyone loves a cupcake. This was actually one of our very first fundraisers. That's Dr. Ahern from Scripps in San Diego. He's retired now, but this was like basically a group of his POTS patients from San Diego at someone's house for a Christmas party. They raised in the very first year. And other people have done a Kendra Scott.
Yeah.
Jewelry party where they would donate a percentage of the jewelry party sales. This was some t-shirts we had that we sold a few years ago. There's just lots of different ways to have fun. And really the key to successful fundraising is that it's fun. You don't want it to feel like a chore for people. I think this is just some other events. This was a farm field fundraiser where they had like obstacle courses and like farm games. It was really like a carnival. It was a lot of fun. People have done raffle basket kind of nights. Like sometimes people call it Chinese auction, or, you know, Sunday afternoon raffle at like lunch with a bunch of girlfriends. That's what these ladies were doing. This event, I don't remember. I think this was down in Texas. They just made this giant sign and they put it up in town, and people were like stopping by and being like, what's that about? You know? So some of it is just like telling people in the community. Speaking of which, community presentations. So this is probably a little bit hard to organize between now and October, but if you are here on this call, you're probably a motivated volunteer looking for ways to get involved. And you could do this any time of year, trying to get presentations on dysautonomia at your local colleges, at, you know, high schools, at university level, college level presentations. Sometimes, depending on the level of the school, they, you know, they might want a doctor to present it or something like that, and we can certainly provide physician speakers for a big enough audience. Hospital presentations, community center, library presentations. You can also ask your libraries to order a copy of, there's a book called Together We Stand, Riding the Waves of Dysautonomia. And that was written by Dysautonomia International co-founder Jody Rum and Dr. Blitzstein, who some of you might know. Jody's not on the board anymore, but she does donate a portion of the proceeds to DI. And it's just a cool book to have that in the local libraries for, like, you know, sometimes there's families who can't afford to buy books, and having stuff in the library really helps out. But doing info tables at, like, if you hear about, like, there's a craft fair, there's some kind of street fair in your hometown, there's a carnival, maybe there's a health fair at the local hospital. Sometimes concerts and sporting events will let nonprofits have a little info table. So we have lots of printed materials if you want to do events like that we can mail out. We just need to know far enough in advance that somebody wants to do that. So that almost done with this, but it's really important that if you do host some kind of in-person event, you really want to have good follow-up and thank everyone for participating, thank the elected official that gave you the proclamation, you know, thank the reporter that did a story, just because that's how you kind of cultivate people for being interested in doing this the next year, and maybe doing it even bigger and better with earlier advanced planning. And some of our events just happen one time and that's it, but some of them have really grown into really fun annual community events that get bigger and bigger every year. So let's see, social media, of course, there's Dysautonomia International shares a ton of stuff on social media during Awareness Month and throughout the year. So if you're not able to do in-person events, for sure, check out our social media and share content like crazy. We would love to, if you're having any kind of event, we really want to know about it in advance so that we can promote it and help you get more people there. And we need enough details to know that, like, not just the date, but like, where is it happening? Is there a fee? Is there any fundraising involved, etc. And if you post photos on your own, like, social media channels, make noise for Turquoise and tag Dysautonomia International to kind of like help a larger audience see that. This is the hashtag we've used. So, whoops, sorry. Make noise for Turquoise is the hashtag we've used for Awareness Month for the past several years. We'll probably just stick with it as it's kind of caught on. That's that. I just, want to thank everybody for being interested and for listening here. And Charlotte, do you have any final closing thoughts for us?
Well, this quote is perfect. I just think so many of us are kind of waiting during the year for when's our chance to really spread the word. When's my chance to tell people how I've been feeling? I think sometimes you can hold that in throughout the year because you don't want to be the person that's always talking about your illness. But this is a great opportunity and a great kind of springboard to open up some of those conversations. I just think we're really powerful as a group. And it's amazing to me to see how much we've grown and how much we're continuing to grow. And, you're a huge part of that. So my last thing would be, I don't even know if you can see my shirt, but we need you. You're the key to this. And so let us know if you're interested in creating something, and we want to make sure that we're supporting you and helping you get the word out.
That's a Dysautonomia Sam. So everybody knows what Uncle Sam is, who says we need you for the army. That's Dysautonomia Sam. We redid him with our logo instead of the flag. We did have some questions in the chat. I just want to quickly answer. One person asked, do you have the information in other languages like the press kit and the proclamation document? We don't, but if you are able to translate English to Spanish accurately, you could do that. And we would love to have more help with translating things. That would be awesome. If you want to email us, actually the next question is, what is the best email to notify about lighting events and proclamations to avoid duplicates? I'm pretty sure it says it on the proclamation letter that's on the dysautonomiainternational.org/awareness, like all those links tell you where to email it. But if not, you could email events@dysautonomiainternational.org, and that will get to us. Heather says, I'm interested in presenting to a local nursing programs. Is there a go-to presentation by Dysautonomia International that could be used for this? So we don't have a presentation that we just generally give out to the public, because the idea is, if you're lecturing on it, you should know enough about it to make your own slides. I know that sounds like a little awkward, but I have slides that I can share with people so long as I'm really confident that they're going to present everything accurately. That's our biggest concern when we are doing particularly any clinician education lectures, making sure that everything is like super accurate that we're telling them. But I'm happy to work with you on that. If you want to email me, I'm lstiles, Stiles, at dysautonomiainternational.org. Jennifer says, I'm in Canton, Ohio. I'm confused about who the correct contact person or job title would be to give us to do a proclamation ceremony. So I can't open, actually I could on my screen really quickly. Like I would have to Google, like, is Canton a city or is it part of a county? I'm not really sure the governance structure, but if Canton is its own city, then you would write to like the mayor of the city or one of the city council representatives to ask, like, basically, who is on your voting box when you go to vote? Who are the different, people that you have to vote for? Those are the people you want to contact. Your own elected officials that are people that represent you are the ones who can help you get these at the different city or county or state level. Ellen is asking, says, I live in South Dakota and find there's very little support or education. We hear you. The physicians are uninformed. Is there a way to get printed material out to physicians in my area? So we have some information on our website that you could print out. We don't have currently like a way to just mail like a gazillion doctors this, because very frankly, if the doctor's office isn't asking for it, they're going to view it as like junk mail. So if you have clinicians that you have relationships with, you could kind of give them stuff. Or you could contact offices and say, hey, can I drop something off? But most of the time, like we've talked to other nonprofits that have done this before us, if nonprofits just print out a bunch of stuff to give to doctors, it usually doesn't even make it to the doctor. There's like 3 layers of, administrative folks and nursing staff before the doctor gets to see anything. So that isn't really necessarily the best way. What would be great would be having the local patients in our South Dakota and North Dakota group. Is it a merged group, Charlotte, or is it
No, we got 2 separate groups, but they do meetups together.
Yeah, having everybody print out some journal articles to share with all their different doctors, right? If you have a cardiologist and a neurologist and a GI specialist, and so we'll post some of that kind of content for people to share during Awareness Month on our social media pages. So I think that's it on our questions. I really appreciate everybody for sticking with us through this, and we're glad to feel your enthusiasm, and it really makes a difference overall. I can tell you, when we started Dysautonomia International in 2012, the diagnostic delay was over 7 years and nobody knew what we were talking about. When we went to government, they were like, Dysauto what? POTS what? And now, 12 years later, I think this is our 13th Dysautonomia Awareness Month, if I got it correct, right? Yeah. We have people coming to us and asking for lectures on this. We have medical systems and government agencies. We literally get calls from the CDC, like, can you train our staff about POTS? Like, yeah, so it's really a change. And that change is a slow forward momentum, growing momentum, not slow, but slow and steady, right? Slow and steady wins the race. And we're in this for the long term to kind of just keep pushing forward. And I don't know if you guys feel it, right? If you're newly diagnosed, you're in the throes of being mistreated by medical professionals and not being able to get help, which is pretty much the standard experience for our patients. But if you've been part of this patient community for like 10 years or longer, you probably see that change. You probably feel that. It doesn't necessarily, I don't feel it necessarily day to day in my own medical care, but in terms of the public awareness and the media coverage and government interest, we're making progress. However, frustratingly slow it may be. We're banging our heads as hard as we can, which is, why we have these crazy, Charlotte, I just can't stop looking at the wig. So,
what do you mean?
The headbanger wig. We need to like wear our turquoise wigs to Congress.
This would be perfect for Knox Rocks POTS.
Yes. So have fun with your Awareness Month stuff. That's the most important thing. Make it fun, and then you'll want to do it, and your community members will want to be part of it. So, All right. Well, thanks everybody. We're going to sign off and we hope to see you on the interweb. Bye.
Hey, have a good night.